Welcome to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the place to get a dose of empowerment to create the life you crave and deserve. My name is Amy with 2 E's, and I am the CEO and founder of Irresistible University. Through my podcast and courses, I teach women just like you how to ditch the body image issues, gain confidence, and lose the emotional weight to look and feel irresistible at any size. If you like the podcast, you're going to love my online course and VIP private podcast. If you would like to learn more, including the investment, see everything that's included, and get real client testimonials, head on over to irresistibleicing.com/course. That link is also in the show notes. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today is going to be a little bit of a different direction than what I normally do. I did not feel, if you follow me on Instagram or you are close with me in real life, then you know what's been going on. I did not feel that I could just jump back into the episodes talking about body image and weight and confidence and, being my normal crazy self on here if I didn't talk about this and kind of wrap this chapter up in a very public online way. It's definitely going to be a long time, that I'll be working on closing that chapter, but I feel like it just wouldn't have made sense. You're like, okay, you're so cryptic. What are you talking about? Well, what I'm talking about is on April the 4th, my sweet little Chuy Chihuahua crossed the Rainbow Bridge and he passed away. And obviously, this has rocked my world. It has shattered my heart. If you know, like there's just so many things I want to say, and I'll get into that in just a second. But I wanted to share that story here with you, not to be doom and gloom and morbid. I'm not going to get into like every single detail of the how, but what I want to do is I want to pay tribute to his life, and I want to share or reshare my story with you about what he meant to me and how he was a catalyst for me even sitting here right now on this microphone, on this video, talking to you. If it wasn't for him, I would not be here doing this right now. And so I want to talk about that because some of you may not even know that part of my story. But, I'm devastated. I am heartbroken. I'm going to try my best to get through this episode without crying too much. I know I probably will get choked up and things, but it's been a week and a half and I miss him. His absence is very loud. There are a lot of, first moments and things that we, I had a routine. I had a life with him. He was such a big part of my life. And so I want to share that. I want to share that with you today. So Chuy was 6 weeks old when we brought him into our life. I knew that I was very hesitant to get a pet because I grew up with horses, and after losing them, I decided never again. I never want another pet. It's too hard. It's too difficult. The heartbreak is just too much. And Frank and I had talked for a while, and I knew I wanted a Chihuahua. If I was going to get a dog, it was always going to be a Chihuahua. And I started looking around online at the time. This is 2009. So I found this one listing, and as soon as I saw the pictures, it was a litter of puppies. I was like, that's my dog. Like I already knew. So we went to go see him, and I'm already getting choked up and I'm reliving the good stuff here. But there's so much good stuff about him. And he was so tiny. He was 6 weeks old. And when he came around, I just remember he came around the corner of their house, and he just looked at us, and I looked at him, and we looked at each other, Frank and I just knew, like, that's our dog. And I said, I want him. and we had nothing. We had no crate, we had no bed, we had no dog food, we had no toys. I had no experience of having a dog at all. I never had, never had that experience of what it was like to raise a dog. So we took him home that night, went straight to PetSmart, started buying all the things. And me and my mom still talk about, she was at her painting class, and we met up with her at the McDonald's parking lot, and she got to meet him and hold him for the first time. I still have the picture, blurry because we're talking 2009, the picture quality, and we thought our pictures were good. And I look back and I'm like, girl, no. But anyway, it was such a fun and exciting time, and he was tiny. Like, he could literally fit in the palm of your hand. We could fit him in the front of our hoodie. We would take him in the store. We took him everywhere with us. And I was just smitten, over the moon, so in love. And what ended up happening is I get this little dog and I got to go to work, right? I got to go to work. And luckily at the time, I lived very close to my job. I lived about 5 minutes away. It was like one exit away on the interstate at the time. So during my lunch break, I would hop in the car and go home and let him out to use the bathroom, feed him, play with him, spend some time with him. And then I would be so sad because I would have to, this is going to be so hard. Oh my God. I would have to get back in the car and get back to work until 6:00, and then come home at 6 and do it all again. Right. And I just kept thinking, this is so sad. Like, I don't want to leave him home alone. I just want to be with him. This isn't fair. What kind of life is this for him? What kind of life is it for me? Because I just had this insane bond with Chuy. And, it started getting the wheels spinning in my head, where I kept thinking, you've always wanted to work for yourself. You've always wanted to pursue something, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. If I was to work for myself and try this at the time, I didn't know what it was supposed to be. So I started doing some, soul searching, and I knew I was not happy at the company I was working with at the time. There was a lot of changes going on that I did not agree with. And because of my personality, when I don't morally agree with things and it goes against my beliefs and what I've worked so hard to do, it's so incongruent. I can't fake the funk, and I can't do it anymore. So that's where, all the stars were aligning, right? And the icing on the cake was this conversation that I had with my manager at the time. And I said, look, where do I go from here? Like, at the company, what's the next steps? What's here? Because a lot of the positions that I held, actually every single position that I ever held in that company, did not exist before I had the position. So even the very first position I came into the company as was a brand new position they hired for. And at this point, I think this was like my third position that I had within the company. And it was, again, a new position. There was no blueprint. And that's been a common theme in my life, is there's never been a blueprint for what I'm supposed to do, or how am I supposed to do it, or how did they do it before I came in. This was in the early 2000s, and I've always worked in learning and development and training, and e-learning was new. Learning management systems were new. It was clunky, and it was, when you compare it to how easy it is to do things today and relative to how it was then, I was this pioneer blazing a new trail, and that's definitely been a theme in my life. And in that conversation, what she said to me was, you either become the manager of the team, or this is it. Meaning, like, there's a glass ceiling here, and this is it. And I knew I am deserving of much more. I know that I am capable of much more, and that this is too small of a life for me. So that really was like the nail in the coffin that made me say, okay, let's figure this out. Let's explore and let's figure this out. And I just started doing some soul searching and like, okay, if I were to work for myself, what would it be? What would it look like? And I don't even remember how it happened, how I came across it. I had a blog like in the like maybe 07, 08 on a blog spot back in the day. And I came across blogging again and how it was this lucrative thing that you could monetize and you could make a living on. And I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. But I was like, well, what am I going to write about? Like, I like writing, but what am I going to write about? And I remember years ago, people would say, like, what's your dream job? This is way before Chuy. And I used to say, sitting in a cottage on the ocean and writing for a travel magazine. That's what I used to say. And I thought, wow, this is so like, closely connected to what I used to say my dream job would be. So I was like, okay, let me pursue this. And I started looking into it. And then I thought, what's the one thing that I've always struggled with? And it was my weight, loving myself, loving my body, having the confidence to do things despite my weight. And I'm like, that's what you got to talk about. That's the thing that, and especially at the time, no one is talking about this topic. No one is saying how they feel. And so we all think we're alone. And I'm like, that's it. I have to talk about the weight stuff. And that got the wheels turning. And I'm like, well, what am I going to call this blog? And, my downfall has always been buttercream icing, right? Like in my darkest days, I would sit in a bathtub with cupcakes with buttercream icing, or I would eat icing straight from the tub when Frank was on deployment, So I was like, I know that I want icing. I definitely want icing to be in the name of my blog. I love alliteration. I think especially at the time, early 2000s, that was like a big thing. Blog names were very like the furry turtle or the, there was all these like names like that, right? No, that's not alliteration, but you know what I'm saying? There was like these 2-word names on a lot of blogs. And Cupcakes and Cashmere, that was a big one at the time, right? She's got her products at Home Goods now. And so I knew I wanted icing in the name because it would symbolize like me binging on icing and my struggles with that, but also icing being this thing in life, like the icing on the cake, like, living life to the fullest or going after what you want and getting the, like kind of like a double meaning. And I just didn't know what word to use. And I even have the brainstorm list. If I go back to my docs and I can see it, and I had all of these I words and none of them were making sense. And so, I'm racking my brain. We have this blizzard in Virginia Beach. I'm snowed in for the weekend. So it was like the perfect time. And I go to the bathroom and it's like the middle of the night. It's like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I'm washing my hands and I look at the bottle of soap, and it was Bath and Body Works, and it was the Irresistible Apple Scent. And I went, oh, I came like running out of the bathroom, screaming to Frank. He's probably like half asleep, like, oh my God, what is going on? What's happening? Chuy was probably like, freaking out because I'm freaking out. And I'm like, I got it. I got the name. It's Irresistible Icing. Boom. And it just stuck. And, you can see now the iterations of that, Irresistible You. And so I start blogging and sharing some of my stories. And then very shortly after, I was like, I'm an instructional designer. I create training for a living. I want to blend that with, this topic. And that's where Irresistible You was born from. And it's evolved and just improved over time. And now we have the Irresistible You podcast. I have Irresistible University, which has my online course that comes with a private podcast. So it's gone through all these iterations. And the catalyst that drove all of this was Chuy. Like he has changed my life in so many ways. And that was the catalyst, because I'm like, if I can work for myself, if I can work from home, then I can be here with him and I can not have to leave him home alone, 8 to 10 hours a day living in a crate. And shortly after I started blogging about that, I was like, I was always taking cute pictures of him because I was obsessed to the very end, still am. And I was like, he needs his own space. And so I launched Irresistible Pets, which was my dog blog. And that's where, especially because Instagram wasn't really popping off yet at this time, so I shared a lot of pictures and videos and things like that over on the blog and continued to do that. And we're down in 2010. That's the year I got married. About a month before the wedding is when I put in my notice, and I was like, peace out. I don't know how the freak I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to make money. I don't know how I'm going to make a living. I don't know anything. I just know if I stay here one more day, I'm going to implode. I can't do this anymore. So I quit and I got to work, and, it did not come without challenges. It's had some bumpy spots, some big ups and some big downs. And, it's been a journey. And, at one point I took a job as an instructional designer for a major healthcare insurance company. I did not want to do that, but sometimes we got to do what we got to do to make ends meet. And I was still able to work from home. So I had this job doing what I've always done with instructional design, but also could run my blogs, part-time on the side, because I was at home and I was with Chuy. And it was great. Like it was a good mix. And then, I'm just getting all in the weeds with y'all today. So there was this one point, I had found this, through my pet blogging, Googling, I had found this company called Blog Pause. And they were this community organization where people that had a pet blog could come together and learn. And they had an annual social media conference. And so I believe it was in 2013. It was 2013. I went to my first Blog Pause conference because it just so happened to be in Washington, D.C. that year. Like the Virginia side of D.C. So literally like 3 hours from my house. I was like, we're going. So Frank and I and Chuy loaded up in the car, and we headed to D.C. And I got there and I was like, well, these are my people. Like, these are also crazy pet parents who absolutely understand the obsession and the craziness, and how these animals are not just animals to us. They are not just pets. They are family. They are family members, and we care so deeply for them. And so, one thing led to another with Blog Pause, and I got really, really involved in the community and kind of started to become a leader in some of the online discussions and things that were going on, and started working with them, doing some branded campaigns and getting paid for that. And I was like, oh my God, like I can make cute content with my dog and take some pictures and vids and get paid for this. This is amazing. And started doing a lot more of that, to where then I never missed a year of Blog Pause conference. So started going to those conferences, and I think the next year was in Vegas. So we flew to Las Vegas, and Chuy was with us in the airplane, came to Vegas. We walked the Vegas Strip with him. Like, I mean, this guy has been more places than some humans have. We get there. The following year, I was asked to be a Blog Pause ambassador for their conference, which means they put you up for it. They pay for everything. You help promote it. You help put it out there and all those kinds of things. And that was in Nashville. And that was 2015. And so the owners of Blog Pause, who are dear friends of mine till this day, they had asked me, like, they knew what I did for a living, and they had asked me to start working on this course. They just wanted to, because that was the whole purpose of Blog Pause, was learning, teaching and learning, whether it was through the conference, whether it was through the online community forums, whether it was through, this new thing that they were experimenting with, which was a learning center. So one day, Chloe calls me up and she's like, hey, do you like your job? And I'm like, no, actually I don't. She's like, you want to come work with us? And I'm like, tell me more. So that sparked a dream job for me. Like I was working for someone, but it never felt like I was working for a company, because it was like a grassroots. It had a startup vibe, even though we were owned by PetSmart corporate. PetSmart ended up buying Blog Pause at one point. And I was hired on to be the director of community education. And it was a dream come true. Like, I'm creating training, which is, my heart lies in helping people and training people. And I'm creating training for pet influencers. Like, this is amazing. I could not ask for anything better. Like, it was great. And, having your dog on webcam during meetings was not frowned upon. It was expected, right? It was expected to hear barks in the background or have a cat walk across somebody's keyboard. Like, it was amazing. It was such an amazing time. And while this is going on, I'm still blogging at Irresistible Icing. I'm still blogging at Irresistible Pets. I'm still maintaining those online websites. And Blog Pause was a wild ride. It was an awesome ride. And this was 2015. And 2016, I have Catalina, which, become a mom, a human mom for the first time. And, that's another thing about Chuy, is that he completely prepared Frank and I to, number one, I think, even want to become parents. And number two, to become parents. There's certain things about raising kids and dogs that are not comparable by any means. It's two different beasts, no pun intended. But having to take care of someone, having a purpose bigger than yourself, having this look, I would look at him way before I had human children. I would look at Chuy and I would just be choked up with so much emotion, thinking like, I don't know how I'm ever going to live without you. Like, if anything ever happens to you, I don't know what to do. Like, it would take my breath away. And I heard people feel that same way with their kids, which I do, right? Now that I have them, I know that. But in a lot of ways, it does prepare you for parenthood, of, just having to take care of someone, like I said, and have that bigger purpose in your life. And, we had Catalina, and then around 2018, corporate mergers, corporate bullshit. Blog Pause basically is no longer. It is, but it isn't. It's kind of around. It's kind of not. They are back, by the way. They are back. If you're curious, and that's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into that, but long story short, to keep you from all the details, through this merger, and they were changing so many things. Like, the way that it was before was no longer, and most of my team got laid off. They wanted to keep me on, but I go back to what I told you before. When my morals and my standards do not align, I cannot fake the funk. I cannot do it. I don't want to do it. And, that's another scary leap of faith, because it's like, here's this steady paycheck, and we're going to trade the steady paycheck for unemployment, right? And trying to do this thing that we've been trying to do on our own. So that's what I did. I took another leap of faith. I said, thank you, but no thank you. I will not be continuing on. I'm going to take this as a sign from God and the universe to pursue what I've always wanted to do on my own. So 2018, that happens, and I was already revamping my course and putting it out there and trying to sell it and all these things. And, this gave me the time now to really go deep and focus on that. And I did. And so ever since 2018, it's been a wrap, and it's now 2025. I have 100% been on my own through the money I make through my online channels, the money I make through consulting and contracting for instructional design, freelance services, writing, freelance instructional design, all those things. So every year since 2018, it's been me. And it hasn't been easy. Even recently, it hasn't been easy, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I'm sharing my career story with you guys because I want you to understand that Chuy was the catalyst for me deciding there's more for me in the world. I have a bigger purpose, and I need to follow my purpose and my passion. I don't know that would have happened continuing to just be the status quo and do what I was told and fall in line. Let's be real. I've never been a fall in line person. Like, I'm just not. And that's just me. Like, I even remember questioning a crossing guard in kindergarten, going home from school. Like, that's just in my blood. I can't help it. But I wanted to share that part of the journey with you because that is what changed. Like, it changed the trajectory of my life. I am an entrepreneur. I work for myself because of this little dog, right? And, I didn't know if I was ever going to want kids. At one point, I was like, hell to the no, I don't want them. I'm not doing that. Not for me. And then you start thinking, well, it started to change, obviously. And I did tell myself, I said, self, if you do decide this was when I still worked in an office too. I said, if you ever do, I want to be damn sure that I don't have to, and my heart goes out to y'all that do have to do this, seriously. I know it has to be so hard, but like the dropping the kid off at daycare at 7:00 in the morning, going to work and picking the kid up at 5-6 o'clock in the evening to come home, rush, do the bed bath and beyond routine, get them down and get ready to do it again the next day. I just knew for me, I would not, if I couldn't handle leaving this little dog home alone, I knew that I would never be able to do that with my human children. So I knew that if you ever do want, you're going to have to, be able to work for yourself. You're going to be able to have to set your own schedule, to have your own flexibility, to not have to ask permission to take my child to the doctor, to not ask permission to go pick my kids up from school because they're having a bad day, right? So, when I think about that purpose, Chuy was setting me up all along. He was setting me up, preparing me to be a mom and preparing me to have a lifestyle that I created. This didn't just fall in my lap. This didn't just happen, it happened by design and it was intentional. And I will forever be grateful to him. And I just have to say, like, Chuy was the greatest chapter in the biggest adventure of my life. And when I say that, when I think about the chapter, he was here in my late 20s, not that he lived for 3 decades, obviously. He was 2 months shy of turning 16 when he passed a few weeks ago. But he was with me through the end of my 20s, my entire 30s, and, a good chunk of my 40s, right? And that chapter of time, Chuy comes in 2009. Literally a couple days later, Frank and I get engaged. A year later, Frank and I get married. A year after that, we buy our first house. We have our first child, start a business, have our second child, buy our second house. Like, I graduated from college, like, in that chapter of time. Frank graduated from college in that chapter of time. Like, all of those big milestones that everybody strives for and, wants to hit, he was here for those milestones. Every single one of them happened. And I say this has been the best chapter of my life. And, even though his physical life has ended, his spirit and his legacy of what he has inspired will always live on. This podcast, you guys, this podcast is his spirit living on, because if he never existed in my life, I wouldn't be here with this podcast. This podcast was an evolution of the blog that I used to write, right? I mean, I still write on the blog. I still do my show notes on the blog, but like, this is an evolution of that. So his spirit is living on through me sitting here talking to you. And that can't be taken away, right? Like, his physical body is taken away, but like, that is so deeply entrenched into me and my life and my legacy. Like, that means something. That really does mean something. And, I want to talk about living like a dog for a moment, and I'm going to get there in just a second. But, I feel like it would be therapeutic for me to just quickly share what happened to him. I've told the story a few times, but I think it would be helpful to me. And if that's something that you're not comfortable with, you can fast forward this part. But Chuy was 15. Okay. He was 15. And obviously, you know, we have seen him at every stage of his life from the time he was a puppy, and he would he would just run circles around the house. And in the past, like 2 years, I would say year and a half to 2 years, we started to, I would say a year, the past year, really started to see the age creeping on him. Even though, you know, he was still wild, he was still stealing the kids' magnets off the floor and playing with toys. Like, that was a thing with Chuy. Like, he was always, whatever was on the floor, he was going to take it and bite it and play with it. And the kids were like so trained to move their stuff whenever he was in the room. But he would still be a little playful. He was still going on adventures, still going for walks, but he was slowing down, right? And that's normal. He was, you know, he's 15. And this guy is like a cat with 9 lives, because he should have died so many other times. Like, I don't know if you guys that have been with me for a while remember back in 2022, I think it was. It was either 20, I think it was 2022. It was 22. They found a mass. They found a tumor on his spleen, and the doctors were preparing us and telling us, one of your options is you need to go ahead and, you know, have the best day of his life and put him to sleep. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's running around. He's vibrant. He's fine. But this tumor, even if it was benign, will eventually explode and he would bleed to death. So we took a leap of faith again, because it was a very small chance that it wasn't going to be cancer. I think it was like a 25% chance that it wouldn't be cancer. Put him through the surgery with his heart murmur. He was 13 at the time. Comes out of surgery. Perfect. They removed it. No cancer, right? He got diagnosed with a heart murmur at 7. Like, he had all these things against him, but they never took him down. Like, he was a tough old man. Like, he really was. But at last year, I started to really see the age. Like, we would have to carry him up and down the steps when we would go up and down at night or in the mornings. He always had a little set of stairs that went next to the couch because he couldn't jump up and down anymore. And it was to the point, these 3 soft stairs that he had, he needed help quite often to get up and down. Then he got diagnosed with arthritis back in the fall of last year. So he was really starting to show his age, okay? And, you know, he had this wicked heart murmur. Like, it was a level 5. It's as high as you can go. I took him to the cardiologist from the time he was 7 to the time he was 15, 2 times a year. And it was growing at a very, like, his heart muscle had barely grown. Like, it was growing very, very small, because if your heart's working too hard, the muscle grows. You don't want that. But it was very minimal. So, like, I always envisioned what was going to take him. It was going to be his heart. I always envisioned he would just fall asleep one night and he wouldn't wake up, or his heart would just go into heart failure. But it wasn't his heart that took him. And so around Christmas time, this past Christmas, it was that Friday of Christmas, because I remember it was a Friday because I had my weekly therapy meeting, and all I did was cry hysterically during that call, because I thought, this is it. He's transitioning. I really thought he was transitioning to the Rainbow Bridge that night. And Frank and I just sat with him. His breathing was labored. He had extreme diarrhea. Like, it was out of control diarrhea. He wasn't eating, and he just looked bad. And the way he was presenting, it looked like he was transitioning to the other side. So we go through this for like a day or two. Then all of a sudden he's fine. Fine. The diarrhea's gone. The labored breathing's gone. He's back to his spunky, spicy little self. I said, oh, thank God. So that was December. And it was why we had not scheduled our yearly we always go to Bass Pro and do the family Santa thing. And I hadn't got in there because I forgot about it. They didn't have availability. And I was like, because of what was happening to Chuy, I said, this could be his last Christmas. I kind of had that feeling. And I said, we have to get our family picture done. Like, it's so important to me that we go do this. And we did, and we got it done. And thank God we have that memory, right? So over, the end of December through March, he's still definitely showing age. He's, but he's still walking. He's still playing. He's still his spicy self, right? But he's definitely more tired lately. And he had another bout of diarrhea. Then it went away. And then about a week before he passed, he went through the diarrhea thing again and he stops eating. So I'm thinking, and that's what happened before. He had stopped eating, so I changed his food. And then he starts eating the new food. So this happened again. He stops eating the new food. So I went and got him something else. It was like a sensitive stomach diet. He starts eating, and I'm like, okay, he's fine. Everything's good. Diarrhea's gone. He's getting, back to normal. And I remember about a week before he passed, we went to the park in our neighborhood. It's like a 5-minute walk, so it's not far. And the kids are way ahead of me in their Barbie camper thing, the Power Wheels. That's for another story. And he's just really slow. Like, I told you he had slowed down, but like, I could tell it was too much for him, a 5-minute walk. So I picked him up and carried him most of the way. And we get to the park and he just lays in the sun and he's, he always would meditate and look at the, stare at the sun and the wind and everything. And I just looked at him and I thought, oh man, like he looks really old. It's almost like, that gradually then suddenly thing. He looks really aged and, he looked frail. He looked frail to me. Like, and even Frank, I had sent a picture and he told me later on, he said, the way he was meditating was different. The way he was looking at the sky was different. And so we start going home and he just wouldn't walk. He just wouldn't walk. Like, and this dog loved to get it. Like, he was my buddy on the trail, always getting it, always going, and he just wouldn't go. So I picked him up and I literally had to carry him the entire way home. And, he's still not 100%. Like, I can just tell, it just feels like it's age, right? And so he passed away on Friday. On Wednesday, he had his yearly, his biannual, just exam, not the heart exam, just his regular exam. I told them what had been going on. They did his routine blood work that was due, and his doctor came out and she said, it's not good. I said, what do you mean? She goes, his blood work is really, really bad. And I was like, the kids are with me. I've got to try to hold it together somewhat, and once you start hearing bad news of a diagnosis, like the world just stops spinning and everything goes blurry. And she said, it's his kidneys. He's in kidney failure. And that explains the diarrhea. It explains the wobbly, he was a little wobbly when he walks. The exhaustion, it explains everything. And then she went over some of the other levels and she said, based on that, I believe that he has leukemia as well. So I just looked at her and I said, how long? How long? And she said, I can't tell you that. I don't know. But what I can tell you is give him whatever he wants, make him happy, keep him comfortable, and just go home and give him what he wants. And I was like, okay. And they did not schedule me my next checkup, which I thought, oh God, when I got in the car, because I just wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. And I realized, oh shit, they didn't do that. And we were at the band field that was in one of the ones that's in the PetSmart. And he started walking down the aisle to leave. And by the time I got to the door, he didn't want to walk anymore. So I carried him to the car and I had to do the same thing. We went into the vet. So the rest of the day, he's very lethargic, which I didn't think anything of it because Chuy was a little spicy. He'd been on house arrest. His personality, y'all, like he was the most expressive dog I've ever seen in my life, but he had been on house arrest 2 times, maybe 3 actually, for biting. And when that happens, especially for a small dog, you get on house arrest. They can't leave their yard. They're on quarantine. So because of that, when he would go to the vet, he had to take an anti-anxiety medication and it makes him loopy. So I think, okay, that's just the medicine finally really kicking in. He's tired, and even getting out of the house and doing things now, it puts a lot of stress on him. So that's all it is. He's fine. And for 16 years, you guys, almost 16 years, this dog slept in my bed. Frank and I, when we brought him home, we said, no way, no how is a dog sleeping in our bed with us. And the first night, Frank was the first one to cave. The first night, he's in his crate because they teach you to do the whole crate training thing. And he's just, little puppy voice. And we both were just like, I can't handle it. So we took his bed and we would put his bed between us in our bed. And that was it. Game over. Like, game over. We're never going backwards. So for almost 16 years, this guy slept in the bed with us, and he had a routine. I sleep on my side, and Chuy would, I kind of sleep with my legs bent. He would come up like right where my legs and my butt bend, and we always called it the butt, and he would come snuggle up next to me. He would turn so he could face the foot of the bed, and he would do this little shuffle thing, and then he would lay his body down, and every time he would make an audible sigh, like he was just comfortable and he was ready to go to, and that's how we knew he's ready to go to sleep. And this was every single night. Every single night, this is how he slept. And we go to sleep that night, and 3, 4 in the morning, I heard something, and he had fallen off the bed. And I have a very tall bed. And this happened also like maybe a month ago. It happened as well. And I thought, oh my God, he's broke his back, he broke his bones, and he was fine. He was running all around the room, he was fine. Same thing happened this time. He looked stunned, like he looked like he didn't know what had just happened. He looked confused. He didn't look confused last time. He looked confused. He didn't realize what was going on, I don't think. But he did move. He got up. He went and got his water, went to use the bathroom, and I made sure to make him walk around to know, like, he's fine. I felt his bones. Everything was good. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put him back up here tonight. There was a pile of laundry next to my bed, and he just went and snuggled up on the laundry next to me, like next to my side of the bed. And I went back to sleep. And I woke up around 5 or something. I looked over at him, and he was curled up in a ball. So he had gotten up again and moved. He had gotten up and used the bathroom again on the pad, and he had moved. And he was sleeping, and he was fine. His bed was also next to the laundry as well. So around 7 in the morning, my eyes pop open, and I look at him, and I was like, oh no. His back legs, he's like laying halfway on the towels, and then his front part of his body is laying inside the bed. So it looked like he had tried to get up, and he just never made it to the bed. And I was like, that's so weird. So I kind of tapped the bed to see if he would move. And when I tapped the bed, he was breathing, he was alive. When I tapped the bed, his body was just so limp. It was so limp. And it was almost like he was already dead, the way his body felt. It was terrifying. And I said, oh my God. And because I'm a dog parent, I'm trained to know that whenever they're not feeling well or they're not good, flip the lip and look at the gums. Flip his lips, and they were just gray, white, which means he's not getting oxygen, which means he's dying. He's not well. And I could tell, I was like, he's in the dying process. He's transitioning. And they believe that the reason he fell is because he was so wobbly. The kidney failure causes a lot of the wobbliness. And of course, I beat myself up to high hell about, I shouldn't have put him in the bed that night. I should have left him on the floor. But you look for ways to make it better by blaming yourself and thinking about what you could have done differently. But he was already very sick. And, he just was like this limp little baby. And I picked him up and wrapped him in a towel. And I said, Frank, get over here now. And he looked at him. We have a way of communicating without talking. And we looked at each other, and we just knew this is his last day. Like, this is it. And I said, call my parents. Thank God they were in town that weekend, because I knew we were going to have to take him in to put him to sleep because he was suffering. He was already going. He was actively dying. And I said, I don't want, this is traumatic enough for the kids witnessing this, and I don't want them to have to be in the room when they do it. So I called my parents. They came over immediately. And, while we were waiting on them, the four of us, Frank, myself, Kat, and Javi, and Chuy, the five of us, we just sat in our bed, in my bed, Frank and I's bed, and we held Chuy, and we told him how much we loved him. And I thanked him for everything he's done. Sorry, guys. And we all just sat around and loved on him and petted him and talked to him. And, it's still painful, obviously, and it was painful, but when I think about it, it was beautiful. It's a beautiful way to pass because he was surrounded by love and the people that cared about him the most. And, then my parents got here, and I told Frank, we're downstairs on the couch, and I was holding Chuy. I said, you're going to have to peel me off this couch, because it hit me that the kids and my mom and dad have to say goodbye because he's not coming back. And I was like, I don't know how to get off the couch. I don't know how to stand up and walk out of this house knowing that that's about to happen, and trying to explain this to your 4-year-old who's just crushed. Seeing your kids heartbroken is a whole nother heartbreak. And my parents, his entire life, he wasn't Chuy, he was their grand dog, and that's what they called him, and they would babysit him when we would go places and things like that. And, they loved him as much as we did. And there's been a lot of hard parts, but that was one of the hardest parts, was leaving the house knowing he's never coming home like this again, and everybody has to say their goodbyes. So finally we got to the car, and I told Frank, I said, I'm actually kind of happy that it's the three of us, the original three, you and me and Chuy. Like, we're the original three, and I think it's nice that just the three of us get to go do this. And then of course you're feeling like, I don't want to kill my dog. I don't want to do this. I don't want to give him this. I don't want him to put him to sleep. Like, why am I doing this? And you're beating yourself up about it, but then also knowing like he's actively passing away right now. And, I said, hey Frank, I'm like, can we, he's driving. I was like, can you drive by the beach, please? I was like, I need him to see the beach one last time. And Chuy, who was always looking out the window, and even if he was laying down, every time the car would stop, he would sit up and he would look out the window. The entire car ride, he never lifted his head. He didn't know where he was. He just laid there, and his breathing was getting more labored. And we went to the beach for a few minutes and walked out to the sand and, said our goodbyes that way, because that was his favorite place. His absolute favorite place. And I think it was the second day that he was with us, because we got him at night. And the second day after work, we went to the beach with him, and I have this picture where I'm holding him and he's so tiny. And then I have a picture of Frank holding him. And then Frank took a photo of Chuy and I. It's on my Instagram, of me holding him in the towel. And I said, all right, let's do what we got to do, And so we went to the doctor, and they treated us with so much compassion and dignity. And they were like, I couldn't have asked for a better transition team. Like, they just took such good care of us and made sure that we didn't have to do anything uncomfortable. Like, they took care of all the paperwork in the room, so we didn't have to go to the front and see people. And they were just fantastic. And they kept telling us, you take as much time as you need. They would tell us and ask us permission before they were going to do anything. And so we stayed with him for a while and, said our goodbyes and all the things. And when we were ready, and, they gave him the shot, and it was very fast. It was very fast and peaceful. And the doctor assured me, because before they can do that, they legally have to give the animal an exam, because I guess people, which as an animal lover, I can't wrap my head around the fact that someone would come put their animal to sleep who's perfectly healthy. I can't, it doesn't even compute for me. But the doctor said he's lifeless. He's already lifeless. She said he's made the decision for you. She said it's always painful no matter how it happens, but it's a lot easier when the animal has made the decision versus, and I've been thinking about that a lot, right? Like with kidney failure, it would have got really ugly really fast. And this was like, it was just ironic that he gets diagnosed and the next day he's gone, right? But not being able to hold his urine, not being able to, like, just pooping on himself, peeing on himself, like having accidents, falling down because he's so wobbly and all those things. Like, but then him being mentally alert would have been so much worse to have to make that decision. Because he wasn't even looking at us. He was gone. He was physically there somewhat, but he was already so far gone that he wasn't even looking around the vet, and he would always get nervous at the vet. So she said, when they make the decision for us, it's a lot easier. And I said, you're right. And she said, you were absolutely doing the best thing you can do for him. And that's still hard to, it's still hard to wrap your head around, because you don't want to do it, but you don't want him to suffer. And he was suffering. And while I would have loved to have had him longer, there would never have been enough time. Even if he lived to be 19 or 20, which some Chihuahuas, they do, it never would have been enough time. And I'm glad that he got diagnosed, because I wouldn't have known what was going on otherwise, right? Knowing what I know now, I'm grateful in a sense that it didn't drag on for a couple months of him just being totally not feeling well. And you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's not that I wanted him to go, but it's better in a sense that it happened faster than for this disease to just deteriorate him. And we have to make that decision when he's still mentally looking at us and understanding what's going on. Like, that would have been awful. It's awful no matter what. It's awful no matter what. And, we said our goodbyes and we left. And when we got in the car, since the kids weren't with us, right, I finally just lost it. Of course I was crying. I don't hold my emotions back from my kids. I think that's really unhealthy when you act like everything's fine or you don't show true emotions. Like, I was crying. I was completely disturbed and upset and shattered, right, when they were here with us. But when we got in the car, it was that guttural scream crying. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that primal just, and, we got home and it hasn't been the same. It hasn't been the same since. There's definitely an emptiness in the home. And it's all these hard things, right? Like having to dump his water bowl out or put his bowls away, or his crate and his bed is still in my bedroom. And Frank keeps asking me, when do you want me to take it out? And I said, I'm just not ready. I'm not ready. Just seeing his dog gates out in the garage and his steps out in the garage, it's too much. His leash and his harness are still hanging on our key rack when you walk inside the house. They've always been there. His toys are everywhere. Like, he's literally all over this house. And, all of those firsts are really hard, or having to do the admin work, calling the insurance or calling the wellness plan and saying, hey, I've got to cancel because my dog passed away, and all of that. And then today, before I got on the episode, I went to the vet and picked up his ashes and his paw print and his little vial of fur that they give you. And so, we got to bring him home so he can lay to rest at home. And I don't know what we'll do with his ashes just yet, but we have them. We can have all the time we need to figure that out. But I know that I do want to use some to make a memorial jewelry. There's like different memorial jewelries you can get done with the ashes. I also, probably we will take a trip to the beach or something at some point and and spread his ashes there, at least a portion of them. But he's home and he's at rest and he's not hurting anymore. But God, do I miss him? I miss him so much. And it really hits hard at night, right? Like once the kids are in bed and, Frank works evenings. So it's always been me and Chuy. Like the kids go to sleep and here's little Chuy following me down the steps and we're getting our little like snack and sitting on the couch together. He's right at my foot when I'm cleaning the kitchen. Like he was literally my shadow for so many years. So that's some of the times where I've slowed down. I need a tissue. I've slowed down for the day. And it really hits because it's quiet. It's just quiet, like not hearing his little nails on the tile or slurping the water bowl, and there's a lot of those firsts. But I have to say that I am so grateful for the amount of time that we got. And like I said, it would never be enough time. It's a dog's only flaw. They don't live long enough, unfortunately. But he outlived so many other dogs that we've known. Because the amount of tears that I have shed for online dogs, that some of them I never even met in person, but just people that I know online. I always cry when someone's pet passes away. Or some of the dogs I really cried for because I knew them in real life. So many of his little buddies through Blog Paws have already gone. And he was still chugging along. So I'm grateful for that amount of time that he was given. And I'm grateful for all the change. Like, I don't remember, Amy, I call it BC, before Chuy. I was so emotionally immature and purposeless and lost. I don't remember being that version of me. I do, but I don't. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, how much he changed, not just my life with the career and what I do and all of that, but just how sorry for all the sniffing, my philosophy, how I view things, how I live my life now, right? People always say, oh, like a dog. They always say that like it's some kind of insult, right? Or I'm working like a dog or doing this like a dog. You treat me like a dog. I wish somebody would treat me like a dog. I wish somebody would treat me like a spoiled, rotten Chihuahua dog like Chuy. Like, please do, And that's the other thing is he lived he had a life of luxury, you guys. Like, he wanted for nothing. This guy traveled, him and I and Frank, like we have traveled all over the U.S. from Phoenix to Las Vegas to Nashville to Texas to San Antonio. We took him on the riverboat in San Antonio as a puppy, and you're not supposed to do that. Like I hid him in the little bag because he was so little back then. And Outer Banks, Washington, D.C., took him into Luray Caverns because you could bring your dog, and we carried him the whole time. I think you can bring him as long as you can carry him. And just everywhere, Myrtle Beach, Savannah, Georgia, so many different places. And just recently over the summer, we did our little road trip for the love signs, which thank God I have that. And we were able to do that. We went to medieval times. He didn't go in medieval times with us, but he stayed at the hotel. And, we went to the Crab Shack together in Maryland and had a blast. And he's sitting right there next to us at the picnic tables. Like, it's hard for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons I feel like it's so hard is Chuy is just a constant. He was the constant. My kids go to bed, Chuy's with me. My kids go to school, Chuy is with me. Frank is at work, Chuy is with me. I'm working in the office, Chuy is in my chair. He would always sit behind me in the chair. Sometimes you might have seen him. He would sit behind me in my chair at work. He would be in my lap. If I was ever on Instagram stories talking to you downstairs in my house, 95% chance he was sitting in my lap or next to me while I was talking to you. I spent more time with him than my kids and my husband because he was a constant. I would eat breakfast by myself, but Chuy would be next to me. I eat lunch by myself while I'm working. Chuy would be next to me. He was always that constant thread in our lives. And Frank too, they were really buddies. Frank even said that's going to be, and it is the hardest part, is when he gets home from work. And I've always joked with him when Chuy was still alive. I said, listen, when this little dog is gone, there is no one on this earth who will ever be that excited to see you again. Not me, not Kat, not Javi. That will be the most excited little creature to ever see you. So soak it up, because how they just wag their tail, and he would get so excited, and he would jump on the back of the couch when Frank would come in the room, or when I would come home. Like, it's just, there's nothing like the love you get from a dog. Nothing. He was my emotional support animal, not literally, but I always, my God, if he could talk, the things he knew, the things that he would be able to tell would be not good. But no, I would talk to him, just holding him and petting him. You guys know I have anxiety, and it would just lower my anxiety. Oh my God. And the kayaking, like, he was my kayak buddy. We would go out on the water together. There's just so many beautiful memories, and thank God we live in a time where it's all documented, right? It's all documented. It's on our camera rolls. It's on our hard drives. It's whether we have a blog or an Instagram, it's on there too, but I have so many pictures and videos and stories, and, it's just, that's the hardest part though, is how he was that constant. So I always watch these, you guys know me, those ambiance videos on YouTube, like when I'm working or I just need the house to be calm. And every cozy ambiance, there's always a cat or a dog curled up on the couch. Because what makes a room so homey and cozy? A cat or a dog, like duh. And so there's always a cat or a dog like curled up on the couch or in front of the fireplace. And I think about that as Chuy, because that ambiance video just keeps rolling, the same clip over and over again. But that cat and dog is constantly there. That was him. He was a constant. And like I said, I don't feel like that's going to go away. Physically, yes, right? Physically, yes. And that's the part that hurts, right? But his presence will never go away because he is embedded into this brand. The Irresistible You brand, it just wouldn't exist. His spirit lives on through what I do with this work, through my, podcast and my course and my private podcast. He will always live on, because when I came up with Irresistible You, that was inspired. The guiding principles, okay? That was inspired by the lessons I was learning by having Chuy in my life, because I realized there's more to life. There's a bigger purpose. There's something more than just sitting around waiting on the wait, right? And live like a dog. By all means, please go and live like a dog. Why? They don't judge themselves. They don't sit there and go, oh, I got really fat. I'm going to not go on a walk today. Chuy went through a fat phase. He got chubby, and he never once was like, just stood at the door and said, nah, I'm good. I'm too fat to go outside today, right? Live like that. Live like a dog. They don't judge themselves. They don't judge others, but Chuy was pretty judgy, to be honest. He had a very, very, there was no questioning what he was feeling and thinking at any point. He had a very expressive phase, and that, yeah, he would judge you. He would totally be judging, but he didn't judge himself. And that's what matters here. A dog, like I said, they're not going to wait on the wait. They don't care if they got fat. They don't care. They also don't closet eat their food. They are loud and proud that they want the food. That's another thing I miss about him. We used to call him Roomba, because when I'm cooking, when you have kids, there's all kinds of crumbs on the floor. This dude kept my floors clean. The amount of times a day right now that I'm having to sweep and vacuum is obnoxious. Quite frankly, it's obnoxious. Like, Chuy, we need you. He would really just, the crumbs were non-existent with him. And we were all also trained to know that I wouldn't bring grapes in the house. One time he got a hold of some grapes. He had to go to the hospital. Grapes are fatal to dogs. No grapes. I don't eat raisins. Very limited with the chocolate. If we were ever going to have chocolate for the kids or for us, especially the kids, I would put Chuy up in his crate just to keep everybody safe, right? So certain things we were trained to like not bring in the house at all. My house was very much dog proof to where the day he passed and Javi dropped an M&M, kids say the damnedest things, right? Like, they're so blunt about death, and we, you know, as you get older, you're not, it's funny, and it's like in a moment of being sad, it's like this funny moment, but he dropped an M&M on the floor. This is hours after he's passed. He's, you know, barely been gone. And I said, go ahead and pick that up. No, he said, I don't have to pick that chocolate up now because Chuy's dead. Like, just clear as day, Chuy's dead. I don't need to do that. And you just can't help but laugh. Like, it's so blunt and true, honestly. I said, but we're still not leaving candies on the floor, right? But our house was so dog-proofed in so many ways. You know, but dogs teach us things. He taught me how to not wait on the wait and how to be in the moment. For a dog, they don't have a sense of time. They don't think about yesterday. They don't think about next hour. They are literally living in the moment. I can remember times in his like very young, you know, energetic days. It was in our old house. And he would be in the office with me and he would literally start nibbling on my computer cord because he wanted me to get up and go outside with him. He would take a tennis ball and he would throw it in the air, which was, God, it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. And that was him saying, hey, listen, I want to play right now. And, you know, what are you going to do? Not do it? He taught me that it's okay to break the rules. Break the rules is one of the guiding principles. Be in the moment is one of the guiding principles. Feed your soul is one of the guiding principles. All of those guiding principles came through my journey of self-development, which was pushed into motion because of Chuy and how I learned. I was very, very aware from day one with him that time is fleeting. I was very aware, and that's where I got more intentional about my life. I got more intentional about being in the moment. I got more intentional about all of those things because I was very self-aware from day one that he won't be here forever. It was always in my head that this is time is fleeting, right? And you don't have him here forever. He's going to be a blip on the radar of your overall life. And how do we make the best of it? How do we make the most of it? And I very much feel that we did. We gave him an incredible life. And it makes me so happy when people have reached out to me and they've all said the same thing. Like, Chuy lived a good life. Like, you guys spoiled him. He went places. He did all the things. He was very well taken care of. And, you know, all of those things in Irresistible You, that's where they got inspired from. So, you know, even if you never met him personally, I hope that you can think of him when you listen to the podcast or, you know, you go out for a walk today or you know, stop for a moment and just be present. And live your life like a dog because they've got it down. They know what to do. But if you are still listening to this, thank you. I know this was a long, long episode and it was very hard at times. And, you know, I understand it can be triggering for some people. But if you're still listening, I want to thank you and thank you for being here. So many of you that I know either online or even in real life, I met you because of Chuy, right? Either like, you know, I have people that we've been friends online because we both had Chihuahuas and we found each other through a hashtag, right? Or we met through the Blog Pause conference or, you know, just all these different relationships and people that have come into my life that would not be here. It's wild when you think about it. It's wild. And, you know, his absence is loud. He is very missed. And yeah, I hope that this episode, if you're still listening, again, thank you. Every day I keep telling myself, let's not cry today. And I got to stop saying that, because you can't put parameters on grief. You can't do that. And this is the first day I've probably worn makeup, full makeup, in 10 days that it's been about 10 days now. So I've lost most of it. I've cried it off, but it's okay. It's okay. This was therapeutic to tell his story, to get it out there. And if you're going through it or you've lost a pet, my heart goes out to you. I completely understand it. I know how painful it is. Live in their memory. If you're ready to look at the memories and the pictures, do it. I know not everybody is there yet. Not everybody can do that. And, their spirit will forever live on. So I am going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you for being here, and thank you for subscribing to the podcast. I will catch you in the next one. Stay irresistible. Bye, guys.